Mm-hmm. Ooh, the 1980s. Oh, hello, I got this book over at Wooden Shoe Books in Philadelphia. It's a non-profit bookstore, and they also sell records from only punk bands from Philadelphia, and also, I don't know why I'm giving them a free publicity here, but they only have books about leftist politics and feminism. Am I punk yet? Oh, man, I've played some sweaty basement shows, but this is ridiculous. Alright, I want to return to my punk roots. You know, I really liked the documentary The Decline of Western Civilization. It was done by director Penelope Spheris. Let's see what else she's done after that. I mean, that movie was very formative and featured a lot of electric performances from Circle Jerks and X and Fear and Christian Death and all these other bands. Not Black Flag, in my opinion. Well, let's see what else she did after that. I mean, I'm sure she's cut her teeth in more punk things, right? I only want to bring you the best. What have you got for us, Penelope?
It's the main event. From Decline of Western Civilization director Penelope Spheris, it's a marriage made in heaven or mud. Get ready for thunder and mud.
Oh, okay, stop. We went too far ahead. Wait a minute. Let's back up a little bit. Not actual mudslinging, maybe metaphorical mudslinging. Perhaps a bunch of punks in a more narrative feature.
Couldn't make it as a punker. All right.
Oh, I'm much happier to see that, but wait a minute. Roger Corman? Ooh, this is going to be a rough ride, and certainly brain dead and on the cheap. So Suburbia from 1983 is a narrative feature about a bunch of young punks, mostly all runaways and one child, as they try to take on the big bad world of suburbia around them, and a lot of annoying things happen, and then the movie ends. What, you ask? Well, let's see how this one starts. Okay, not only is that just largely pointless for the rest of the movie, but she doesn't even look like she's concerned or that this was the first time that she's witnessed a child being killed by a wild dog. Oh good, now we've finally gotten to one of the live concerts, which pretty much looks exactly as it does in the movie The Decline of Western Civilization. Same kind of like film stock, and the editing and everything looks very similar. But you'll notice one thing. It's not as electrifying as the other performances. These are rather forgettable. I mean, I can't tell you that I have listened to a lot of TSOL or the Vandals or DI, but they're not really kind of taking my interest, especially with these performances. Let's see where this goes.
Hey, what about some drugs? Back triangles, man. They're fucking excellent, I'm telling you. Okay, if you change your mind, I'm Kish.
Did people really used to just give drugs away for free in the hopes that the people who got dosed and then started unknowingly having a crazy trip, oh, let me go back to that guy and get some more drugs? Surely this will end well.
I think I'd like to fuck your brains out.
What?
I said I think I'd like to fuck your brains out.
Oh, you would, huh?
Yeah, but it doesn't look like you have any.
Alright, that's a sequence that is not gonna do too well these days. I mean, what? That went on for... It goes on for so long. And so... What? Well, it's at this point that we get to start to know some of our characters better as they reside at a punk squatting house that they refer to as TR House, I believe. It's gonna burn the T and R into our arm because we're so hardcore, man. Oh man, they're gonna live to regret that. Only some of them, though. One girl kills herself. Oh, what else happens in this movie? A bunch of dogs get shot in slow motion, artfully done. You can see the tripwire. Oh, what else? There's a dead cat in there at some point. I mean, just enough. Okay, enough with the dead cats. I'm sick of watching movies from all over the world, and they're constantly coming back to the dead cats. I just don't get it. But surely this cast of characters, well, we're supposed to feel for them, right? I mean, they're going to do something that'll make us sort of look at ourselves and say, hey, if I were in that situation, I would do something similar, right? They rob and terrorize the neighborhood on a daily basis. And is that Flea? In fact, another character just straight up calls him Flea at one point. Here he is, fresh off his acting role in Thrashin'. Don't remember that movie? No one does. You know, I've read that Penelope Spheres hired a bunch of authentic punks, as is evidenced very quickly in the performances, as you'll see. Though I have to say, I respect that decision, and the movie would definitely not be as punk incorporated.
There's no way anyone's gonna make me leave this place.
So how can I sum up what happens throughout the rest of the movie? Well, these punks eventually just become enemies with basically the two old men from the end of Easy Rider, the same guys who are going around just shooting all the wild dogs. They keep having these retaliating fights between each other in groups and otherwise, and they kind of go to a yard sale and just act like dickheads. The main characters are such dicks. And I mean, you can make a murky movie about a bunch of, degenerates and still have them be at least likable or have some sort of likable filmmaking style to go with it, or it feels authentic, or it's just a new way of telling a story. But I don't really think many of these factors come into play. Instead, it just kind of feels like a weird update of one of those like 60s biker movies, which makes sense because, this is even a little bit in the same vein as like The Wild Angels. But it has more of the depth of a Roger Corman movie like Down and Dirty Duck. We're supposed to kind of feel for these characters and get the sense that they've formed this core of camaraderie between each other by being in similar life situations and kind of living off each other's backs and being all in it together. But they kind of just run around and be assholes to everyone in the neighborhood, and they kind of bring this on themselves by sort of shying away from the advice from a friendly cop who's trying to just help them out and say, hey, this is going to be bad, this is going to escalate, just get out of there. And they say, no, it's going to be fine, and also, fuck you, man. And then what ends up happening? Well, suddenly about 20-30 minutes are left in the movie, and now it's going to be all melodramatic because one of the girls killed themselves. Yes, dead cats, dead dogs, dead teenagers. Well, where's it going to go from here? I mean, what's going to be the grand ending? Are you going to just like kill that kid or something? They killed the kid, roll credits while the body's still warm. You've got to be kidding me, man. What kind of ending is that? Well, it's what, what I kind of expected from this movie. So let's break this down a little bit. Very rough around the edges and very much done so on purpose, but the visuals are just so murky and uninspired and unimaginative and just not fun to look at, and the movie kind of just drifts along, and there's very few flourishes of any kind of interesting scene transitions or character development, any number of things. Instead, we're just kind of like going through a half-baked story about these punks. Just because something is seemingly uncompromising or just unpleasant to look at doesn't necessarily mean that makes it punk! This movie just had really nothing to say and just felt very cobbled together and underwritten and half-baked and underdeveloped. While I couldn't really recommend this to fans of declined Western civilization, although I am sure that there are plenty of people out there who definitely enjoy this movie, I would say it's more for the exploitation crowd, or somebody who just wants to kind of see a couple of shocking scenes, even though I already effectively ruined it for you. Let's make our final decisions on this one. Penelope Spheres. Okay, well, she did kind of have a resurgence and started putting out even more movies that had that kind of punk leaning. Just kidding. She made Black Sheep and Wayne's World and the Beverly Hillbillies movie and also that mud wrestling thing that we saw before. But at the same time, she still had some indie cred after that with movies like Dudes, which reunited her with Leaving of Fear and Flea once again. Or, you know, trashy exploitation, which was more in-your-face exploitation like Hollywood Vice Squad. And obviously I liked Decline of Western Civilization if you're going for the straight-up documentary stuff and you want to see, you know, the germs talk about taking pictures with a dead guy and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's always going to be there for you, but I was expecting more out of a narrative version of that same kind of movement that was happening at that time. And unfortunately, this one just kind of swings violently like a drunk guy trying to swat a fly in the dark. In fact, there's less mudslinging as in thunder and mud, and this is more like G.G. Allen throwing literal feces at the audience and saying, "What? Why'd you all leave? I'm just throwing my shit around, literally." Yo, what do you know, man? You weren't there in the 80s. You're just some kid. What do you know about punk, man? I know about punk. I know what's punk. This movie is punk. You're not punk, man. That's me preemptively responding to the people who might have criticism with my own criticism, which is really kind of just unfounded. I'm sorry. I'm talking a lot. Suburbia, 1983, Penelope Spheris. Big time disappointment, if I'm being completely honest, but, you know, what else do you expect from Roger Corman? Penelope Spheris made Black Sheep and Wayne's World. Next thing you're going to tell me the director from Christmas Story made Porky's to finance his movie. Oh. Well, it's not as if he made a crazy horror movie about Christmas. Okay, folks, I think that about does it. I hope I don't lose my punk cred by giving this movie a very negative review. Just wish it was, you know, funny, interesting, anything like that. If I really had to reach, there were a couple of scenes or ideas that I thought were funny, such as when they all steal a bunch of that fake grass and then bring it with them to the mall, which they break into and then set up on the ground. And if we're following the punk ethos, live fast, die young, at this point I have to have a heart attack or die of an overdose of some kind. Overdose of literature. I gotta go back to reading my book about ladies of punk in the hopes of getting some action. Well, that's all for this time in this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And stay sexy!